Welcome. We're doing a deep dive today, and we're framing this really as a briefing for you, our senior management.
That's right.
Our goal is pretty straightforward. We want to show that putting in place and keeping up an information security management system, an ISMS, based on ISO IEC 27001.2022, well, the value you get back, it's much greater than the effort involved.
Precisely. It's about seeing it not as just another task, but as a really strong strategic move.
Yeah.
We're looking at a framework that's respected internationally.
And that framework, ISO IEC 2771.2022, it's the latest standard, right?
Yeah.
Updated in 2022.
Yep. Replace the 2013 version. It sets out what you need to do to establish, implement, maintain, and importantly, continually improve your ISMS.
And the whole point of this ISMS.
At its heart, it's about protecting information, keeping it confidential, ensuring its integrity, and making sure it's available when needed. You know, the CIA triad.
Right.
And it does this through managing risks, giving confidence to everyone involved, stakeholders, customers, us.
It's important to stress, though, this isn't like a one-size-fits-all thing, is it?
Not at all. It's a strategic decision. It has to fit our organization, our goals, our specific security needs, our processes, even our size.
So what works for Company X might need tweaking for us.
Exactly. The standard gives you the what, but the how is tailored. That's its strength, really. Adaptability.
Okay. So over the next little while, we'll walk through the key parts of the standard. We want to make it really clear why investing here is, well, essential.
Sounds good.
Let's kick off where the standard does. Clause 4. Context of the organization. Why start there? Seems foundational.
It absolutely is foundational. Clause 4 basically makes us look outwards and inwards, what's going on around us externally and what's happening internally that could affect our ISMS.
So external, like competitors, new laws, cyber threats, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And internal could be our culture, how we're structured, maybe legacy IT systems we rely on.
Okay. And why is that understanding so critical right at the start?
Because those things shape our risks. And opportunities too, actually. You can't plan your defense without knowing the battlefield, right?
Makes sense.
Clause 4 also pushes us to identify who cares about our information security. The interested parties.
Which isn't just customers, is it? It's suppliers, regulators.
Our own employees, shareholders. Anyone who can affect or be affected by our security measures.
And we need to know what they expect or require from us.
Precisely. Their requirements may be legal duties, maybe contractual promises about data, maybe just expectations of good practice. Our ISMS has to address these.
Because failing to meet them could mean trouble. Legal issues, losing customers.
Big trouble. So you see, security isn't designed in a vacuum. It connects to everything.
Right. So context understood, interested parties identified. Then we define the scope. How do we pin that down?
Defining the scope is huge. It sets the boundaries, what parts of the business, which locations, what assets, what activities are covered by the ISMS.
And how do we decide?
You look back at the context stuff, internal, external issues, the interested party requirements. You also need to think about interfaces, dependencies with other companies, like suppliers.
And this scope needs to be written down, like formally.
Oh, absolutely. Documented. No ambiguity about what's in and what's out.
Okay. And the last bit of clause 4, 4.4, it just reminds us this ISMS thing isn't a one-off project.
Exactly. It's a cycle. Establish, implement, maintain, continually improve. It's ongoing. It has to be.
Which leads us nicely into clause 5, leadership. Seems like nothing happens without the top brass being on board.
You nailed it. Clause 5 is all about top management's role. They have to show leadership and commitment. It's not optional for success.
How do they show that? Just saying security is important.
Well, that helps, but it's more concrete. Establishing the main information security policy, setting objectives that actually line up with the business strategy. That's key.
So security goals shouldn't be separate from business goals.
Never. They need to support them. Leadership also has to ensure that ISMS requirements get woven into the fabric of the organization's processes.
Not just bolted on.
Right. And, critically, they need to make sure the resources are there.
Money, people, tools.
The whole package. You can't achieve the ISMS outcomes without proper resourcing.
And communication. Does leadership need to bang the drum about security?
Constantly. Communicating why it matters, why people need to follow the rules, what the benefits are. They're ultimately accountable for the ISMS achieving what it's supposed to achieve.
So they're driving the culture, supporting people, making sure everyone knows their role.
Yes, and supporting other managers, too. Shared responsibility.
Okay. And the policy itself, clause 5.2, that needs to be
It's established by top management, obviously. It has to fit our purpose, set objectives or a framework for them, commit to meeting requirements, and commit to continual improvement.
And it's not a secret document.
Definitely not. Documented, communicated inside the organization, and available to relevant outsiders, too, where it makes sense. Builds trust.
Then 5.3, rules and responsibilities. Just making sure everyone knows who does what for security.
Pretty much. Top management ensures roles are assigned, responsibilities are clear, and people have the authority they need, especially for reporting back on how the ISMS is performing.
Clarity avoids things falling through the cracks.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's leadership setting the stage. Now, Clause 6, planning. This is where the strategy starts to turn into action.
Right. 6.1 is actions to address risks and opportunities. This sounds like the real engine room of the ISMS.
It really is. When planning, you have to look back at Clause 4, the context, the interested parties, and figure out what risks and opportunities could affect our ISMS goals.
So what could stop us achieving our objectives or cause security problems?
Yes, but also what opportunities are there? Maybe better security opens up new markets or gives us an edge. It's not just about stopping bad things.
Interesting. So identify risks and opportunities. Then what?
Then you plan actions to address them. Integrate those actions into your ISMS processes. And crucially, figure out how you'll know if those actions are actually working. You need to evaluate effectiveness.
Okay, measurable outcomes needed. Then 6.1.2 dives into the risk assessment itself.
The core process. You need clear criteria first. How do we measure risk? What level of risk is acceptable to us?
Risk acceptance criteria. Got it.
And criteria for doing the assessment so it's consistent. We want comparable results each time we do it.
Makes tracking progress easier. And what risks are we looking for?
Specifically, risks to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information within our defined scope.
CIA again?
Always. And critically, you need to identify risk owners.
Yeah.
Who is responsible for each risk?
Assigning accountability. Vital. Okay. Risks identified, owners assigned, then analysis.
Yep. Analyze them. What's the potential impact if this happens? How likely is it to happen? That helps determine the level of risk.
So we're prioritizing.
Exactly. You evaluate the risk level against your acceptance criteria. Which ones are too high and need treatment? And, like everything else, document this whole process. Keep records.
Audit trail, consistency. Okay. Assessment done. Now, 6.1.3, risk treatment. What do we do about the risks we identified?
This is where you decide how to handle the unacceptable risks. You need a defined process. First step, select treatment options.
Options like fixing the vulnerability, transferring risk via insurance, avoiding the risky activity, or just accepting it if it's low enough.
Those are the main ones, yes.
Yeah.
Once you've chosen an option or options, you figure out the specific controls needed to make it happen.
And this is where Annex A comes in.
Bingo! The standard says, compare the controls you think you need with the list in Annex A.
Which is that big list of best practice controls.
Right. It's derived from ISO 27002. The point of the comparison is to make sure you haven't missed anything obvious or necessary.
A safety check.
A crucial one. After that comparison, you produce the Statement of Applicability, the SOA.
Ah, yes, the SOA. Heard of that. What exactly is in it?
It lists the controls you are implementing, why you chose them, whether they're implemented yet, and it lists any controls from Annex A that you decided not to implement, with the justification for excluding them.
So you have to explain your reasoning for leaving something out.
You do. It shows deliberate decision-making. Then you formulate a risk treatment plan, how you'll implement the controls.
The action plan.
Yep. And finally, get the risk owners to approve the plan and formally accept any risk that remains after treatment, the residual risk. And document all of this, too.
Thorough. Okay, so that covers risks. What about 6.2, information security objectives?
Right. It's not just about risk reduction. We need positive goals, too. Establish measurable objectives where you can measure them at relevant levels in the organization.
And these objectives should align with
the main security policy, consider requirements, and factor in the risk assessment results. They give us something concrete to aim for.
And they need to be monitored. Communicated.
Monitored, communicated, updated when needed, and documented. Always documented.
And planning how to achieve them means figuring out the what, who, when, how.
Exactly. What needs doing, who's responsible, what resources are needed, deadlines, and how we'll measure success. Turns objectives into reality.
Got it. Clause 6.3 is quick planning of changes. Just means don't make changes randomly.
Pretty much. Changes to the ISMS need to be planned and controlled. Prevents accidental weakening of security.
Makes sense. Okay, on to Clause 7. Support. This sounds like the enablers section.
That's a good way to put it. It's about having the right foundations in place. 7.1 is resources straightforward. You need to provide what's necessary: money, people, tech.
No surprises there. 7.2 is competence.
Yep. Anyone whose work affects information security needs to be competent. Determine what competence is needed, make sure people have it through training, experience, etc., address any gaps, and keep records proving competence.
So skilled people are a security asset.
A critical one. Then 7.3, awareness. Everyone needs to understand the policy, how they contribute to security effectiveness, and what happens if things go wrong, the consequences of noncompliance.
Fostering that security culture.
Exactly. 7.4 is communication. Define what needs communicating about the ISMS, when, to whom, how, and by whom, both internal and external comms.
Like policy updates internally or maybe breach notifications externally.
Things like that, yes. A clear plan prevents confusion.
And 7.5, documented information. This covers all the paperwork.
All the required documents from the standard, plus anything else we decide is necessary for the ISMS to work well. And it's not just having them.
It's controlling them.
Right. Proper identification, format, review, approval, making sure they're available but protected, controlling changes, retention, the whole life cycle of a document. Solid document control is essential.
Okay, that's the support structure. Clause 8, operation. Putting it all into practice.
This is where the rubber meets the road. 8.1, operational planning and control. Plan, implement, and control the processes needed to meet security requirements and carry out the actions from Clause 6.
Set criteria for processes. Implement controls based on those criteria.
And potentially keep documents to prove processes ran as planned. It's about ensuring daily work aligns with security goals, also managing changes operationally and controlling any outsourced processes that affect security.
Can't forget third parties.
Definitely not. Then 8.2 and 8.3 bring us back to risk. 8.2 says keep doing risk assessments at planned times or when big changes happen, and keep records of the results.
Keep risk understanding current.
And 8.3 says implement the risk treatment plan and keep records of those results too. These aren't one-offs, they're ongoing operational tasks.
Continuous cycle.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, Clause 9, performance evaluation. How do we know if any of this is actually working?
Good question. That's what Clause 9 is for. 9.1 is monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. You need to figure out what to monitor key processes, controls, how to monitor them, when, who does it, and then who analyzes the results and how often.
Data-driven security.
Exactly. You need evidence.
Yeah.
Documented results of monitoring and measurement are required.
Okay. Then 9.2, internal audit. Our own checkup.
That's it. Conduct audits periodically to see if the ISMS conforms to our requirements and the ISO 27001 standards requirements, and, crucially, is it effectively implemented and maintained?
An independent look internally.
Well, objective at least. You need an audit program, frequency, methods, responsibilities, planning, reporting. Define the scope and criteria for each audit. Ensure auditors are objective. Report findings to management. And document the program and the results.
Lots of documentation, but it proves diligence.
It does. Finally, in Clause 9, we have 9.3, management review. This is where top management steps back in formally.
To review the whole system.
Yes, at planned intervals. Is the ISMS still suitable for us? Is it adequate? Is it effective? Still aligned with our strategy?
And they look at specific inputs for this review.
Yes, the standard lists them. Things like status of previous review actions, changes in context, stakeholder needs, feedback on performance nonconformities, monitoring results, audit results, objective status risk assessment results, opportunities for improvement. It's comprehensive.
It gives them the full picture.
It should. And the output. Decisions on continual improvement, decisions on any necessary changes to the ISMS, and those decisions need documenting too.
So it closes the loop back to leadership.
Precisely. Keeps the ISMS relevant and effective. Okay, last main clause, Clause 10, improvement.
Because it never stops getting better.
That's the goal. 10.1 just states it plainly. Continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of the ISMS. It should be ongoing.
And 10.2 deals with when things go wrong. Nonconformity and corrective action.
Right. If there's a nonconformity, like a security incident or a process failure, you need to react. Control it, correct it, deal with the consequences.
Savage control.
But then, crucially, evaluate why it happened. Find the root cause. Do we need corrective action to stop it happening again?
Learning from mistakes.
Exactly. Implement necessary actions, check they worked, make changes to the ISMS if needed. The actions should fit the impact of the problem. And surprise, surprise, document the nonconformity and the actions taken.
Creates a record of improvement. Okay. Before we wrap up, Annex A, we've mentioned it a few times, what's its official role?
It's normative, meaning it's a required part of the standard. It's basically a reference list of potential information security controls drawn from a related standard, ISO 27002.
Not exhaustive, but a solid baseline.
That's it. Its main job is to be used during risk treatment, back in 6.1.3, as a checklist to make sure you haven't missed any necessary control areas when deciding how to treat your risks.
And it's organized into types of controls.
Yes, generally. Organizational controls like policies, roles, people controls like awareness training, screening, physical controls like secure areas, equipment security, and technological controls like access control, cryptography, network security.
So it gives examples across the board. Things like having an information security policy is organizational.
Awareness training falls under people.
Securing the server room is physical.
And setting up firewalls is technological. It helps ensure a balanced approach.
So it's a key tool to guide our control selection based on our risk assessment.
Precisely. A valuable reference point.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. For us, as senior management listening to this, what's the absolute key takeaway about ISO 27001.2022?
I'd say the core message is this standard gives us a really solid, internationally accepted way to manage our information security risks properly. It's not just box ticking. It's about building a stronger, more resilient organization.
And the specific benefits for us at the top. We're talking better protection for our data, obviously.
Definitely. Better compliance with laws and regulations, which seem to grow every day.
It's true.
And building trust, huge one. Trust with customers, partners, regulators, even our own staff. That's hard to measure, but incredibly valuable.
And having that structured approach to risk means we're being proactive, right? Potentially saving costs down the line by avoiding incidents.
Absolutely. Prevention is almost always cheaper than cure when it comes to security breaches.
Now, we know implementing and running an ISMS takes effort. It needs resources, it needs commitment, it's not free.
No, it's a real investment.
But the argument we're making today is that the long-term payback, protecting our assets, our reputation, keeping the business running smoothly, it really does outweigh that investment. It's strategic.
It is. Think of it as investing in the organization's future resilience. It moves us away from just reacting when bad things happen towards actively managing the threat landscape.
Okay, so maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. Imagine having a certified ISMS based on this global standard. How could that not only protect what we have now, but maybe even open doors?
Yeah.
Strengthen our position in the market?
Yeah. Could it become a competitive advantage? Demonstrating this level of commitment to security in today's world, that could be a real differentiator. It's about building that foundation of trust, showing we take this seriously. That could be key to our future success.